All right. Trump is panicking over reports that confirm most political violence in the United States is right wing. It is not left wing. And when Donald Trump panics because reality comes up against his lies, the truth gets deleted. Listen to this. The Department of Justice just erased a study from its website showing that the overwhelming majority of domestic terrorism comes from the far right. White supremacists, right-wing militias, neo-Nazis, not from environmental activists, not from Antifa, not from student protesters. We have serious academic work and law enforcement work that proves the violence in this country, by every serious measure, is overwhelmingly right wing. This wasn't speculation. It wasn't like an op-ed. This is research commissioned by the Department of Justice's own National Institute of Justice. And what it documented was what counterterrorism experts have been saying for decades. I've read decades old books about this issue. They already knew it in the 90s. Far right violence outpaces all other types of domestic terrorism and domestic violent extremism. And up until September 12th of this year, you could read that report on the DOJ website, and it is gone. It's been memory holed, deleted to the depths of who the hell knows where. And the page now says materials are being reviewed under Donald Trump's new executive orders. Let me give you the translation of that. Inconvenient truths are not allowed under authoritarian rule. And the data that Trump is trying to hide is really, really clear. You go back to 1994, the vast majority of politically motivated murders in the United States have come from the far right. Now, depending on the exact time frame, it's about 70%. Left-wing terrorism exists. It is marginal. There's a handful of incidents. It's mostly property damage. It's not killings. And every single time that the right wants to downplay this, they love to talk about 9/11. Now let's explain why this is so important to them so that you can be better prepared when you see this online, when you see this in real life. They love to include 9/11 in the statistics to make it look like Islamist terrorism dwarfs everything else in the United States. There's two problems with saying, well, because of 9/11, domestic terrorism is mostly left-wing. Number one, the attackers were foreign nationals. It wasn't domestic terror in the sense of what we're talking about. It was an international plot carried out from abroad. Yes, it took place physically in the United States, but it's not really representative or connected to what we're talking about here when we talk about political violence in the United States. But secondly, and this is the part that is very rarely discussed, if we're talking about ideological lineage, why would we consider Islamic terror left-wing? It's not liberal. It's religious fundamentalism. By definition, religious fundamentalism is right-wing. Just because the extremists on 9/11 were Muslim doesn't make them left-wing. And in fact, look at civil society in the countries that they come from. Look at the Taliban. Look at ISIS. Look at the authoritarian theocracies of the Middle East. It's the same authoritarian kind of patriarchal theocratic worldview that Christian nationalists push in the United States. Different religion, but same politics. So the big picture really doesn't change when you go, oh, but 9/11. In the United States of America, the real persistent homegrown terrorism is coming from the far right. It's not even close. And Donald Trump is now desperate to cover this up in the wake of the Charlie Kirk killing, because Trump has been insisting we have a problem only on the left here, not on the right. The radical left is the problem. We need to reconsider the First Amendment, Trump said. We need to potentially even do RICO criminal charges against protesters. But the truth is that the vast majority of the domestic violence, political violence, and domestic terrorism is coming from Trump's side. And that is part of why the narrative around this shooter collapsed so quickly, because first MAGA said it's a far left shooter. Then it was like, well, it's a trans shooter, But then we found out the family's really conservative. His circle of friends leans right. And so if this was a radical leftist, it's a very strange sort of set of circumstances. And now they've gone much quieter on that. Now, I will be the first to tell you that it seems as though the political beliefs of the shooter, to the extent that we understand them right now, are sort of a mixed bag of grievance ideas sourced from, incubated by this right-wing family, but certainly potentially influenced by the left. It primarily seems like someone who was driven more by emotional trauma than sort of concrete political beliefs. But again, no matter what the political beliefs are of Tyler Robinson, the 30,000-foot view is most of this stuff is coming from the right. Now, we need to also consider that just deleting stuff is not really a great way of making it go away forever. The study is archived, the screenshots are everywhere, and there's potentially a Streisand effect here, which is that the harder they try to hide it, the more people might end up seeing it. And that's why I think this story is very important. It's not really just about the DOJ report. What happens when an administration decides, hey, there are facts here that are really inconvenient? We're going to try to eliminate the facts. And the way we do that is by deleting stuff. And this is another hallmark of authoritarianism. It's not just about controlling people. It's about controlling memory. What are you allowed to know? Authoritarians love to control what you're allowed to know. It's sort of like we're getting rid of this. Having in your browser history reports about right-wing violence is sort of like when you had the wrong books previously in authoritarian regimes. And when the Stasi showed up, you would just start burning the books or whatever equivalent authoritarian system. And the truth is really very simple. We have a domestic terrorism problem in the United States. It's overwhelmingly a right-wing problem. I want to solve all instances of it. Even if you go, well, it's 70% right-wing, 7% left-wing, and 23% sort of non-political. I want to solve all of it, but we've got to be honest about what the problem is if we're going to solve it. If Trump's willing to just erase this, we know he's willing to erase a lot of other stuff. And that's really part of this whole idea behind Doge. It's not just get rid of people. It's also root out a lot of just fact-based, empirically based ideas that the government is working on and replace it with hyper-partisanship. And you got to hand it to them. They're kind of succeeding at it.